Hi everyone, welcome back to Swiss Home Garden. I'm Chitra. In this video, I will be sharing with you my new pantry organization with pickle jars. Sometime back, I shared a video on pantry organization with Tupperware containers. And since some time I've been playing around with the idea that maybe I should change it because they were getting slightly older and I didn't want to be investing a whole lot of money to buy new containers. And moreover, these deep containers are very difficult to find. So I made a kind of compromise to switch half because sometimes it's not very practical to use all the glass containers. I ordered these bottles from a manufacturer in Germany. It's called Flash & Bauer. I will leave the link below in the description box. They were quite economically priced and it was affordable. In the meantime, I've been removing out many of the older containers and selling it off on the second-hand market. The advantage of these glass jars is that you can use it for pickling, for fermenting, and you can even easily wash it in the dishwasher. There are many benefits to using glass. The disadvantage, what I see, is they're usually quite bulky and you cannot fit in as much of food stuff as with the Tupperware sleek containers. This is one negative. And once you fill in the food, it gets really heavy. Each bottle weighs about 1 kilogram, and then I fill in 1 kilogram, and then it is more than 2 kilograms. And I have to be very careful around the kitchen, and you have to have multiple jars for filling in the same amount of food in comparison to the Tupperware containers. So this was why I was kind of hesitating. For the topmost shelf, I stay with the Tupperware containers. First thing is because it's easier to lift up. I'm not a very tall person. I'm just 160 centimeters and I don't want to be climbing up and down a ladder because of my back. First, I will be showing the before and then I will be showing you the after. And I will also be taking you along the process. The reason why I was hesitating to change into glass is because of this. These are super storer oval containers from Tupperware and they fit exactly front to back in my pantry shelves. And this particular size, number 3, holds about 2 kilograms of rice or dinkel wheat or any of the lentils. This is an old Luminarc pickle jar and I have been having it since more than 25 years. Although this is a 1 liter jar capacity, I can only store half a kilogram of any of these sugars in it. And the other one is even less than that, it is 750 milliliter. So this was the reason why I was hesitating, but sometime I want to see how it does feel after I change it. And you can see an assortment of different types of glasses. That's because I have been changing it as and when, and I have been reorganizing it in between till I could get these whole bunch of glass jars. I have been collecting over the past decade or so these smaller honey jars, but they are quite small in capacity and they hold about only 300 milliliter. So I usually use it for storing dry fruits and nuts. Now I will be transferring the groceries into these bigger new glass jars. This particular size is a little bit more than a liter. It is about 1.1 liter. So I will transfer whatever I can into this and then label them and then arrange them. In order to avoid a lot of spillage, I am using this scanning funnel so it fits in exactly into the jar and I don't have any spillage. this is the finished look. The topmost shelf, I leave it with Tupperware. As I mentioned before, I don't want to be climbing up and down to reach to those containers. And I prefer to leave a couple of containers empty in case I buy some new food item, because it's always changing in my kitchen. And that's the reason why I leave a few empty containers. Since glass can easily slip out of these wooden shelves, I used a shelf liner to place these glass jars, and that way they have a kind of grip. When I try to pull out something, it won't slip out easily. These shelf liners are easily available in IKEA, and I have them since a long time. I used to use them previously and I didn't need to buy extra for this purpose. It was practical to store these heavier, bigger glass jars in the lowermost shelf, since they have a volume of 1 liter and 560 milliliters. That is 60 milliliters more than the regular Fido jars. And over here, I stayed with all the Tupperware containers, mainly because I wanted to store all the overflows. And moreover, this turntable spice rack is very practical in this location. I don't have any other place to store it. And I do use these spices every now and then. The depth of this particular container is 28 centimeters and the width is 9 centimeters. So this makes it an ideal choice to store as much of food items in your pantry, and they're very sleek and light to handle. I am implementing this kind of arrangement since October, but on the other hand, I see that glass is quite complicated to handle, and I didn't cook that well in the last couple of months because I couldn't see what I had in the kitchen. On the topmost shelf, I have a couple of overflows in 2 of the containers, and in the downmost shelf is my spice rack. Beside it, in the smaller boxes, I have some nuts, and in the middle shelf I have some rice, some different kinds of flours, gluten-free flours, and lentils and pasta. I can easily stretch to the topmost container and pick up the food item that I require with this kind of arrangement. But that is not the case if I would store on the topmost with glass. This is the only disadvantage with this glass jar arrangement. These biggest jars which I have a volume of 1 liter and 560 milliliters, and they easily can hold 1 kilogram of any grain. But in the case of big volume stuff like flour or pasta, only half a kilogram. These are slightly bigger than the regular ones which I had previously. I have a system here that what I use the most, I put it to the front, and what I use occasionally is towards the back. My husband had to bend the clip towards the outside a little bit because at the time of getting it, it was touching to the bottle, and that was quite loud and I could easily jam my finger into it. So he took it to the workshop and bent it a little bit to the outside so it doesn't make such a big noise while opening, and it is easy for me to handle and open. In the front row, I stored basmati rice, moong dal, dinkel wheat and pasta. Behind the dinkel wheat, I also have some rye. And behind pasta, I have rice flour. I don't really know how much of rice flour I could fill into this because I had 2 different packets. Let's move on to the shelf above. Over here, I have stored food items which I use also on the regular basis towards the front, and behind ones which are occasionally used. I have over here quinoa, and behind quinoa flat rice, and beside the quinoa I have urad dal and parboiled rice. This is because these two belong together whenever I soak for Indian breakfasts like idli and dosa. Next to it is tur dal. Tur dal is also used for making sambars and soups, and behind it is chana dal or split chickpea dal. This is occasionally used, and then I have brown sugar towards the front and castor sugar for baking towards the back. Here I didn't want to make a big change, mainly because these boxes are really practical to store flour. The bigger ones measure about 2.1 liters and they easily fit in 1 kilogram of flour. And the smaller ones, half a kilogram of flour, although I haven't measured in this case, the smaller ones have a volume of 1.6 liters. So I didn't want to be changing around with this. Moreover, mostly I grind the flour fresh, and this is just in case of emergency. I have over here buckwheat, chickpea and 3 different flours of dinkel and rye. Let's move on to the next unit. These are the smaller version of Tupperware containers. They are called Tuppervision modular mates. These are not that deep and I have them just since about a year or so. So I didn't see a need to replace them, and they are practical to store 1 kilogram of any item. And I have a few empty ones. I like to keep a few empty ones on hand in case I have some other new food item that is going to be coming in. Since we are vegetarians, we eat a lot of soaked beans and lentils, and that I have stored in this shelf. In the lowermost shelf, I have stored all the breakfast cereals and snacks. The smaller bottles contain different dry fruits and nuts, and in that odd upcycled glass jar, I have maize corns, which we can make popcorn with. My daughter loves to make herself some popcorns when she's watching something during the weekends. She uses the cast iron Dutch oven and makes a popcorn by herself. And so it is within her easy reach. And behind I have some cereals which I don't use so much, but once they're finished I don't think I will be buying them. We are not big cereal eaters. In the big jar towards the right is some rice puffs. I got it a while back and nobody seems to be eating it, so I will convert it into some granola bars. Behind it is whole spelt penne pasta. This is dinkel muesli, and beside it is rolled oats. And towards the front of the oats I've stored coconut flour and then dry desiccated coconut. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and this video was useful and you could get some tips from me on how to organize your pantry. I will leave the link below to my older video, and I will also be leaving a link to the blog post which I shared a few months back in my blog at swisshomegarden.com. See you in my next video. Bye bye.